Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole Worth, if we haven't met before. This evening, I'm bringing to you the Unpredictable Webinar Part 3. So in this webinar, we'll be talking about the myth around, well, in the previous webinars, I've talked about the myth around horses being unpredictable. And in this webinar, I really wanted to bring to you some video to be able to look at like some disasters that are happening in the online space, really look at the expressions and the signs that horses are giving us before those things happen and what we can do about it. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to really see what I'm seeing. What I find a lot of people accidentally do is they just miss the signs and they take things as normal behavior, which I guess they are normal behavior for the horse, but they're a little bit blasé. They just don't recognize what's going on. And so I wanted to give you an opportunity to see what I'm seeing and really sharpen your visual skills so that you can make better decisions around how you handle your horses. So let me go to, sorry, I'm just going to change my screen here for a second. So tonight we'll be on for around an hour. I do have time for some Q&A after. If you've got any burning questions, feel free to ask at the end. But tonight we're going to pop up on the screen some of that footage. I want to really review it with you bit by bit and break it down almost second by second even, so that we can identify all the little pieces that are happening and talk about those pieces. And this is going to be quite interactive. So I want you to tell me what you're seeing before I tell you what I'm seeing. I want you to start to sharpen your, or get practiced at seeing the little things. And then once we've broken all that down, like I said, I want to give you some solutions or ways, like if that was my horse or if this was happening in real time, the things that I would do to stop that disaster from happening, like avoid it or just educate the horse in how to not put people in danger like that. Okay. So there is going to be some disturbing kind of footage here. No blood or anything, but people getting seriously hurt. So just keep that in mind. If you need to turn your screen off anytime or take a break, that's fine. Because I understand that trauma is a real thing if you've experienced, some injuries yourself or someone that you love. But before we jump right in, I want to check, anyone here, did you attend or watch the replay of part 1 or part 2? And I'd love to know, what was your biggest takeaway from those? Misty says she did. Awesome. Do you have a takeaway from either of those videos or anything that is like a gold nugget that you've taken home from that? Feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat. Yeah, so Misty says to take notice of who's moving who. Yep. And so much comes back to that. And you'll notice that as we go through some of these videos as well, I think you'll pick up some things that you might not have noticed before, like the subtle ways that horses are moving their humans. Did anybody, so part 2 was like the practical exercise I gave. Did anybody have a go at that as yet? And if not, that's fine. Are you nodding, JJ? I can't quite see. Oh, you are. Good. Misty says she hasn't yet, but has bought a flag. Awesome. Excellent. You're going to need it. Okay. So actually, while we're talking about the part 2 and that exercise, what I'm going to do at the end of, like after this webinar is finished, and to follow on and to like keep the conversation going and to keep helping you guys, is I'm going to open up a Facebook group for the purpose of supporting you in applying that exercise in webinar number 2. So the exercise where you're creating space, you're creating awareness for your horse of your personal space, and even being able to feed your horse safely with plenty of space around. So that exercise is a really key one, and it's one of the ones in the Partnership Reboot program that I teach, and that's going to be coming online in about a month's time, or maybe a bit less. But I want to give you a space where you can practice that exercise. You can come back to me for feedback. You can put video up, get me to, you know, tell you what I'm seeing or little things that you can tweak to make it work for you, and even in your own situation, your own facilities, your own horses, and whatever dynamics they've got going on, because it's not going to be exactly the same as what you see on the video. There's going to be a lot of little things that you want to tweak. And yeah, so that Facebook group is going to be titled Unpredictable No More. So you can jot that down if you like. And if you want to search for that in the next day, you'll find it on Facebook and you can join it. Unpredictable No More. And in there, you're going to get some free coaching. You're going to get a really good start with your horse. JJ says she's finally figured out how to chat. Oh, nice. Welcome. Have been making sure to be vigilant about each step, maintaining personal space and safety. Awesome. Yeah, consistency is great, is a key. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and move into some video. I don't have a great track record at sharing screens, so just bear with me if I mess this up. I did have a practice earlier today, so let's hope we get it. Okay. Can you guys just give me a thumbs up if you can see a YouTube screen, and it's almost like a TikTok size picture there of a lady sitting on a bucket with a horse. JJ can see it. Nice. All right. Whoops. Back. Okay. It's going to start playing. Yeah. So some of you might have seen this one already. Like it's done. I think it's had a lot of views. For starters, is this a safe way that you want to be feeding a foal that no, I'm getting no's already. No. Yeah, I don't recommend it for a start. I don't recommend sitting down like that. The foal's free, it's not tied up, it's not restrained in any way. The caveat to that, of course, is that if you have sufficiently trained the horse, like I've got a foal that I've been, sorry, it's not mine, but a client's foal that I've been working with over the past few months, that you could do this and there wouldn't be an issue, but we've got boundaries in place, and she's not allowed to push on us ever. So it's kind of an it depends scenario, but generally you wouldn't want to be doing this. And we'll see why. So to start with, I want you to notice the foal's body language. I'm just going to go like a second at a time. And not just the foal's body language, but also the person's. So we'll go another second. What are you noticing already here? This is a really key point, and we'll come back to it in a couple of minutes. But is there something here that you're already noticing is a red flag? Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to speak with, yeah, there's plenty of opportunity to talk. And just have a guess if you're not sure. So what I'm seeing already is the person has started to lean back. So she's recognizing, even if she doesn't recognize it consciously yet, she's recognizing in her body that there's some kind of threat. She's leaning back. But what the little horse is doing, see that eye on her? So he's pulled his head away quite quickly. It's been like a jerk. It wasn't just like a little lift. He's pulled his head away quite quickly and he's eyeing, like that eye is on her. And as we keep going, that eye is still on her. So thinking about that eye and what his body's doing right here, can you predict what this foal is doing in this moment? We'll keep going. Oops, the chat is happening and I have missed it. JJ says, if I can figure the chat, I'm sure we will nail the video. I'll give it a go. Yeah, so Misty's observed the foal is turning away. Let me move this over here. Facial expression and ears. Yep. So there's like an unsure or not happy expression. Misty says the foal is trying to get away from her and create space. Yes, in a way. JJ says he's reacting defensively to something that worries him and getting ready to line up with back feet. Nailed it. That's the thing that I was referring to when I mentioned the eye after he pulled his head up out of the bucket and then what he was doing with his body. Yeah, Misty says he's lining her up now. Absolutely. He's lining her up. He started lining her up right after he lifted his head out of the bucket. And the interesting thing here is he has got her lined up. I looked at this earlier and checked the time as it went on. He had her lined up for about 10 seconds before he actually kicked. So he's in a very defensive position right now. And again, if you look at the woman's body language, She's leaning back because she feels, even if she's not actually thinking it in her mind, she feels something is off, feels a little bit threatened. And she should remove herself from that situation right now. Should have already removed herself from there and gone and got a flag or something just to move the foal along. But let's see what she does next. Okay. Feel free to keep dropping in the chat. I can see the chat now. So another second. So she's going to attempt to move him out of her space. She's like, the woman's like, you're in my personal space. I'm not very comfortable with this. I don't like your hind end pointing towards me. Can you move, please? I was thinking about this action earlier. It reminds me, or it makes me think of somebody going up to a tiger or a lion and trying to pat it on the face and going, good kitty, you're not going to attack me, are you? Good kitty. She feels kind of threatened, but she's like, maybe I'll get you to move. Misty says she's reaching out to him, but she's too close, 100%. It's not firm enough a signal to go away. Absolutely. She's completely vulnerable there. We'll go another second. Okay, she's touched on him, pushed him. He's rocked a little bit. And then he actually took a little step. So I think she gets a little bit of false confidence from that motion. And she tries again. So see how her body language is more upright and straight now. She's a little bit more confident, but she's still in a really, really bad position. She needs to stand up, absolutely, Misty. And she needs to get out of his kicking zone completely and move him from outside of his kicking zone. Like right now, if we think back for the past 10 seconds, all the little signs that he's shown, and actually, what was I going to say? She's been giving way to him. That's what I was going to say. Whenever she leans away, she's giving way to him. So for the past 10 seconds, anytime he's pushed a little bit or she's felt a little bit threatened, she's essentially told him, I'm giving way to you. I'm giving way to you. I'm giving way to you. And then in this moment, she's going to try to get him to give way to her while his butt's pointed towards her and those double barrels are pointing right at her. She's got a loaded gun pointing at her there, essentially. It's not a good idea. So she pushes again. And the very predictable response to that from this foal is a double barrel to the head. It gives me goosebumps in not a nice way. But that has been coming for 10 seconds at least. Let's just run it through one more time. The whole thing. Oh, that was the first bit. He's lined her up. She's giving way to him. She's going, can you give way to me? Bad choice. She has no tools. She's within his kicking range. She's got a double barrel pointing right at her. She's already told him, you're in charge of me. And there, he does the quote unquote unpredictable thing and kicks her. And that's just, like I said in the previous webinars, that's just a bigger version. Yeah, and Misty says he's looked at her twice menacingly before he kicked. Yeah, he's given her so many signs that he's not okay with what's happening. And that kick is just a bigger version of everything that's been happening for the past 10 seconds. And we don't have the past 5 months of this foal's life, but I can guarantee that those patterns would have been repeating over and over again. And yes, you can tell he thinks he's the boss. And in this case, yeah, it's a lot more like defensive what he's doing rather than like dominant. But he does have all those previous interactions that's told him that when he threatens, she will give way to him. And at the last part, she wasn't giving way to him. And he's like, okay, I need to accelerate this. I need to remove this threat. I need to get rid of this confusion, this like it probably feels like antagonizing him because her communication was really poor. So just to recap, like, okay, if that's our foal, for example, what are we going to do to avoid that ever happening? It's setting those boundaries, even when they're really small, of you need to ask permission to come into my space, like you don't get to barge into my space. If you start to turn your bum in any way, you're going to get that sent away. You make sure that you have a tool with you to be able to follow through on the things that you're asking so that you can clearly set boundaries and you're not ever, like, even if he did kick out at you with double barrels, he can't connect with you. You can continue to set the boundary and finish on a good note. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Oh, any questions on that before I move on? So these first few are actually to do with kicking. Oh, I forgot to mention in that previous one, there was a little moment where the foal kind of cocked his hip, and you're going to see that more clearly in this video. That is also a sign of defensiveness. So this is quite a short one, but this guy's walking up to move. There's a chicken down at his feet. He's walking up to move the chicken away from the horse, as far as I understand. Misty says, my gelding faces his rump towards me a lot, but I'm always out of the kick zone. I need to work on this. Okay, great that you're out of the kick zone, but you can definitely move him on from out that distance and just let him know that you're still seeing that, you're still not going to allow that body position. Yep, with the flag, if that's effective at that distance. What can be more effective, especially when you're out in the paddock or free, is using a lunge whip, like a long lunge whip that's, it's probably got 2 meters distance on it, and it'll make a bit of a sound. You can even tap them on the butt with it if you need to. Like, you can actually reach them and make them move. Okay. So this horse has the defensive pose going on. Can anyone think of why would that horse have weight off that offside leg, or the leg that's closest to what they perceive to be a threat to get ready. Yep. Yep. And what makes, like, if you look at the posture of the horse in this picture, how would you determine that that position is defensiveness and not relaxation? Because we know that horses will often cock a hind leg when they're relaxed. What's the difference? We can't see his ears there, but we can kind of see his posture. So Misty says he's not inviting you in. He's turned himself away. Yeah, that could be part of it. He's not engaging with the person. And the other thing that I want to point out is his posture is tense. So from the top of his poll down into his wither, his neck is raised, his body's tense. He's not like head down sleeping. Okay. This one happens super quick. So this horse is pretty defensive. He's just like, I'm not okay with this. Boom. And that's all the warning that this guy got. I don't know if there were any ears being pinned, because we kind of can't see because the button is over the ears. But I think this horse was probably fearful more than nasty, quote unquote, more than aggressive. No worries. JJ's been chatting with Misty in the chat. That's all right. It looks like you've got it figured out now. No problem. Misty's been doing that too sometimes. All good. Okay. So see, as he approaches, there was that little pickup of the hind leg and then cock. That little defensive pickup and cock. And he's tense. There's a little swish of the tail. That might be some can't think of the word, annoyance. The guy keeps coming. He doesn't see it. He doesn't think it's anything. Boom. The horse takes one step forward and then boom. So this horse has also had him lined up for several seconds, and he's ready in that defensive mode. So his hooves are his protection, and he's feeling, from my observation, he's feeling pretty threatened right now, and he's kicking that threat away. What would you do to make this horse safe or to avoid this happening? Can anyone think of, like, if you were that guy coming up to the horse and you noticed that cocked hind leg and the tense posture, what would you do in that moment? If you really needed to go get that chicken, what would you do? Stay out of the kick zone? Yep, for sure, Misty. Not approach closer? Absolutely. So stop where you are. And then what? How could you safely approach that horse? How could you safely go get that chicken? Could go around the front. You could. But if you are, yeah, I think he's kind of standing on it now. I think he's standing on the chicken now, JJ. think that's what it is. Go around. So Misty says you could go around the front and approach him softly and get his attention. Yes. And then walk up to the horse and while next to him with hands on his shoulder, move the chicken with your feet. You could do that. Like, that's a way to do it in a less threatening manner. But there's another way that I would prefer to do it that puts you in charge of the situation and shows the horse that their job is to give way to you. Hint, you can use your flag. So what I would do is I'd be standing a couple of horse lengths back and I would just point and ask him to move that hind quarter over. So it looks like he's tied up to a railing of some sort. You could probably even approach more from the side and then ask him to shift that hind quarter around and over parallel to the railing. So long as he's educated enough that he's not going to pull back and you're not going to create a bigger problem, you can ask him to move his body away from you so that now he's placed himself in a position that you're now outside of his kick zone because he's moved away. And then you can go get the chook. Happy families. And with this particular horse, Misty, I'd actually prefer to do it that way because Misty says she likes it. Yeah, I would prefer to do it that way because even if we're walking up to the front of him, like he seems quite defensive, he may strike from the front. He may still cow kick as we're coming up along beside him. He may still kick out at our leg if we're using our foot to move the chicken. Like there's all these unknowns. Well, they're not really unknowns. They're like probabilities of reaction from him based on what he's already shown us. Yes, and you are maintaining a safe distance your way. Absolutely. Next. This one's not nice. And it's another one that happens very quickly. I think this is probably a vet coming to check this horse. It looks like he might have a wound on his elbow. We get about 1 or 2 seconds of footage showing us what this horse is communicating. So I'll go ahead and play it. Oh, looks like it was partway through the video. Okay, so this is the start. Are there any subtle signs that you're noticing in the first screenshot? Anything, maybe not massive, but just subtle? Ears, eye, yeah. So the ears are tense. The ears are back and tense. They're not pinned, but they're back and they're tense. The eye is very watchful and the head is high, yes. The neck's up and he's tense, yep. But he really doesn't look much different. Like right now, he really doesn't look much different from a lot of horses when somebody's coming up to give them a needle or maybe about to throw the saddle on and things like that. But those are signs that he's not really okay. And we also see, looks like he's tied to something on the right of the screen there. And the handler, even though he's tied up, the handler is holding him under his jaw. So I think there's a little bit of concern from the handler that he's not going to stand still or he's not going to like what's coming. And he's also, yeah, JJ says he's at the end of his rope. He is. He's possibly already taken a few steps backward before they started filming. So let's move 1 second along. Did anyone notice what the vet, let's assume it's a vet, what the vet didn't do that they probably should have done? Is there anything that you would do coming up to this horse to check a wound? Definitely, Misty. Didn't say hello to him. So she has not communicated with the horse or acknowledged him. Yep, JJ says, wear a helmet, good idea. And she didn't acknowledge him. So from his perspective, he's communicating to the humans. He's like, I'm not feeling okay. I'm uncomfortable right now. And it's like they've just got earplugs in and blinders on, and there's just zero recognition of his state. Yeah, she needs to introduce herself as a nice person and not a threat. Now, she may very well be a nice person and not a threat at all, but he doesn't know that because she's just like coming in. She's definitely not expecting to get kicked because she's not, like, she's sticking her head right in there, straight up. She's just focused on looking at the wound. Now, this happens super quick. He steps and he kicks pretty much in one. Boom, done. Really fast. Now, I would say, actually, I'm certain that this horse, yeah, he's still not happy, JJ. This horse is not used to giving way, like with that personal space thing, or maybe it's not so much personal space with him because he is giving them, he's not running over the top of them here, but he believes that it's okay for him to use his hooves to protect himself with humans. I assume that this is like a more handled horse. Maybe he's an off-the-track thoroughbred or something like that. He looks like he's more familiar with people than the previous horse we saw. But he's used to communicating with his feet. Like he didn't give that a second thought. It's just boom. And he's pretty well groomed, yeah. So this might be the kind of horse that like pins his ears a little bit or threatens to kick if you're grooming around his flank and he's uncomfortable or something like that. Like I'm very confident that in his day-to-day handling, he's giving little signs, little threats when he doesn't like something. And this time he really doesn't like it and he's just gone boom without a second thought. Yeah, so Misty says he didn't give her much warning, so he might have got away with it before. Totally. So for him, like, we don't want to punish him for the fact that we're doing something that potentially hurts him and he's not happy about it. But we can, with horses that kick from pain, or even from feeling threatened, like we saw in the previous video, as that person approached him and he felt threatened and he kicked. I always give horses the option to move away when they're feeling threatened or in pain. And that's what I would teach this horse as well as the previous one, that for them to use their hooves to defend themselves against people is not an option. Like that's just not an option. But your option is to move away. So with this horse, if I was handling him and he started to threaten, I would absolutely use my flag, get really big with my energy, and just send him away in whichever way I could to get him away. And he then gives himself the release of pressure by being away from me. So the release of pressure doesn't come from striking out or telling the person to leave. The release of pressure comes from the horse giving way to the person. If they're uncomfortable, if they're in pain, if they feel threatened, to move away from the person, and then they get relief over there. So you'd want to teach that. You want to build that into your horse's psyche as their defense mechanism, if you like, is to just move away. And when they understand that that's an option for them, they tend to settle a lot more because they know they have that option. Usually you find that horses like this will start to strike when they've been held still and had things done to them. And people have taken away their ability to leave the situation, and they're still feeling really unhappy about it. And so they go to another option, which is fight. Instead of flight, they fight. Let's move on to the next one. This one's a little bit interesting, and I apologize, the video is a little bit more blurry, but I'm assuming you guys can see everything okay so far? Yep. So this one's a bit more blurry, but it's got some interesting parts to it. So we'll go ahead and play the first few seconds. What red flags are you noticing so far? Why would he try to get on now, says Misty, and I agree. So far we are seeing, yep, the horse moved away from him, the ears back, he's tense. JJ says he's bracing, tail swishing, trying to move head away to shift rear end to prevent him mounting. He's not happy about him getting on for a start. So this video didn't go where I thought it might go based on what we saw straight up, but that's still a key part of what happens next. There's a little hip cock there as well. Nothing happens with it, but it's just another thing to note that the horse is not feeling that good about what's happening. Are you noticing anything else? Again, it's subtle, but as he's moving off, are you noticing anything else about the partnership between these two? And what's not really working? Definitely the horse doesn't trust him. And Jojo says there's no partnership. Ears are pinned. Looks like he's in a hold my beer moment. It looks very uncomfortable. Yeah. So his state of mind, the horse's state of mind, actually, I think it's a filly. Her state of mind is like, okay, you're there, you're on my back, but I don't trust you. I've already communicated that I'm not happy about this. I'm not comfortable. And then as they moved off from the mounting block, I don't know whether the guy actually squeezed her at all to go, but he definitely didn't direct her where she's gone. She's just moved off. She's just going somewhere. And that's a key part here in what happens next. She's just going somewhere, and he's not really, well, he's not at all in control of where she's going. What happens next? She goes and finds a friend. She goes somewhere that she feels more comfortable. I think she's actually doing what I've spoken about in some of my other webinars, what I call the flocking mechanism, where when a horse feels threatened or vulnerable, they want to flock to other horses and they want to get close. So she's coming over here. Anything else you're noticing so far in the, let's say, the herd dynamics or the hierarchy between the Appaloosa on the left and the guy riding and the horse that he's riding? Not yet. There's actually nothing happening here. She's lined him up. He's lined up. But in this case, she hasn't done it. I don't think she's moved at all. He's come into her space. And the key thing that I want to mention here is, I mean, Misty's right. Nothing's happened yet. There's been no action, no indication, but we can't see the Appaloosa's head. There probably is something happening. But just the fact that he's ridden that horse, or that horse has come into the Appaloosa's personal space, and the Appaloosa has not moved away, tells us something very clearly about who is in charge in this situation. "100% JJ, with one horse tense and upset, moving up to another one at their hind end is a red flag." Yeah, and I think Misty's just had the penny drop moment that the Appy's the boss in this situation. Because if the Cremello was the boss, the Appy would have moved on. If the guy riding was the boss, the Appy would have seen him coming, and the guy would have actually, if the Appy didn't move of her own accord, the guy would have moved her on. But we can kind of see just by the shape of his body there, see, he's starting to lean away. He's starting to go, oh, we're getting too close to her hind end. He doesn't trust, like, he knows they might be going to get kicked. He doesn't know, and he doesn't trust or believe that he can just move the Appy on. So we've already got some signs of the dynamics that are happening here, and we can absolutely predict what's going to happen next, which is that. So now that we can see a bit more of the Appy, it looks like she's eating something. Even worse, even more reason for her to kick out. Okay, that's a lot of kicking. So just by the size of the Appy's response and how much she kicked and how hard she kicked and how long she kept kicking, we can also assume that she was giving several signs while she was eating as the guy was riding up to her. And the cremello that he's riding as well would have probably seen those signs, but I would say the cremello's worry, I would say the cremello's worry of the guy riding her was overriding the fact that this horse might kick her. And she's like, I need to flock to you anyway. I need to get with you. JJ says that interesting that the shadow of the person filming points and gives a wave, but doesn't move to assist. I love what he's saying. He's like, that's enough now. So just as we're going through, I was just going to replay the whole thing through again, but what, like so far with the red flags that we're seeing, and in this scenario, like there's a lot of things that come together for it to end up how it did. But one of them was this horse isn't okay with being gotten on. So like what if this was you and you're seeing those red flags to start with, what would you do? What do you think you would do at this point when the horse is going, I'm really not okay? Because she's letting him get on. Yep. Do groundwork, try to connect. Get her relaxed and listening, 100%. You could even just slow down this process a little bit. And because, I mean, we know nothing about this horse really, but he's just kind of steamrolling through all her communication that she's a little bit fearful. So sometimes even just slowing that process down and connecting with her again as you're going and just reassuring her as you're going can take away that fear to where she doesn't feel like she needs to go and attach herself to another horse. JJ says definitely wouldn't get on, maybe groundwork, but let relax first. Yep. All that relationship building stuff, trust building. Don't ride in the paddock with the appy, 100%. 100%. I've made this mistake with actually, it's probably quite a similar situation. I had a young horse that I'd just broken in. I was only like 15 and didn't have a whole wealth of experience, but I learned fast on this one day. I'd been riding him in the round yard and he was doing awesome. And I decided, okay, I'll ride him outside. And so I did. And I just rode him over to where the rest of the herd was grazing about 100 meters away, thinking, I'll just go for a ride around the horses. Like, he's doing awesome. Well, when I got over there, the other horses decided that they were going to have some fun and go for a strap down the paddock. And they started like running and kicking up and bucking. Of course, he wanted to go with them and I wouldn't let him. And then he had that feeling, I guess, that this horse has where, okay, now he's feeling vulnerable because I'm holding him back and he wants to go with the herd. And then he started to buck. I got thrown off. He bucked off of my hand. That hurt a lot. And I learnt very quickly, you don't just go and ride a young horse amongst other horses that are free in the paddock. It's not a good idea. JJ says, maybe ride the appy. You could. You might have a better experience. Yeah. Yeah, and You're welcome, Misty. Like when he's moving off here from the mounting block and he's kind of got no steering, like the first thing I want to do there is bend the horse around and make sure that I've got steering and brakes. Number one, if you haven't got steering and brakes, you've got nothing. You've got a car that drives where it wants and drives up the back of another car. Of course, I mean, I think he got out of that pretty lucky, actually. Okay, the last one I wanted to share, this is a compilation. An auto drive Tesla. Yes. I'm not sure what to think about that. It's a little bit scary. Oops, where did I put the chat? Hang on a second. I don't want to lose the chat because then I can't see what you guys are saying. Okay. One moment, please. No, having chat problems. Can you guys tell me, is that, so I've got the chat bubble on my screen. Can you guys see that or is it hidden for you? Can you see the chat taking up part of the screen? Yes or no? Is it blocking part of the screen? It is, okay. Well, I'm going to close it down. Yep, but you can see the horse, great. Well, I'm going to close the chat for a second while this is playing so that you can actually see the video. If you want to interrupt me, just unmute yourself. This video is only a couple of minutes long, but I'm going to be talking through it. And so I'm going to close the chat and then, yeah, just if you want to interrupt, just unmute yourself and talk over the top. So this is just the introduction. Okay, straight away, this horse is not happy. This poor guy. I mean, I think we could probably all see that coming. I think you'll notice something about this horse as the little boy approaches. There's that hip cock and that hip drop, that defensive move. And he may have a broken leg. This one is interesting because I think this is a really common one that people miss. Let's look at the expression of the horse. I don't know, he may be I'm saying a he, I'm guessing it might be a stallion, potentially, just from the look of the shape of his face and what he does, but so let me go back a second. Is there something that you notice about his expression that gives you a clue to how he's feeling? To what he's communicating?
Is it mainly his ears? Just doesn't look happy.
Yeah, there's a few things. The ears are definitely one of them. There's a couple
His
more things.
nostrils, his nostrils are tensed as well, like really.
Yeah.
Is
Yep,
it
the
that and
nostrils.
I was gonna say he's turned his head away too, like he's kind of like trying to get away from the contact.
And his eyes narrowed.
Mm-hmm. There's a number of things. So from the top down, his ears are not relaxed. Like if he was enjoying that rubbing, his ears would be relaxed and loose. His eyes are tightened and they're almost half closed, like he's just almost like blocking out or just tolerating. Even as we get down, like I think he's got quite a fine muzzle, but down the sides of his uh, jaw, or like where the bars of his mouth are, it's a little bit pinched in there. So just above where his nostrils are, you can see it's a little bit pinched in there, like he's holding his mouth tight and his nostrils are flared, like JJ said. And he's preferring this person to pat him who's already patting him, like he's allowing it, but it looks like he's not so sure about the other one that's coming up. So I think this is a really good example, and I wanted to point all those things out because I think this is a really good example of the horse that does the unpredictable thing or snaps when there's just one more thing added. So he does not like that touch. And the poor little kid gets bitten. So he's already giving several signs that I don't really like being touched in this way to start with. And then somebody adds a little bit more. And there's like the flappy hand thing, which is probably also perceived a little bit like more of a threat or a bit more antagonistic compared to the way that the other guy's handling him. And then it's just boom. But there was no like nibbling first or like maybe I'll threaten you or toss my head or whatever. He's just gone straight from that to boom, bite. But the signs were there. The signs were there. What else do we have here? Oh. Okay. I think this horse is pretty tolerant so far. It's obviously the guy, as he's coming up to me, he doesn't really know what he's communicating, or it seems like he doesn't even really know what he's trying to communicate to the horse, and the horse is just kind of tolerating him. But see that moment there. Let's go back.
Horse already has one hoof off the ground.
Does he?
It looks like that to me.
Be. He
So the
might.
hind
Yeah.
right,
It's slightly forward at least.
when you move the video forward a little bit, it just looks like yeah, it just looked like he had
Might
that
be.
up off the ground.
Yeah, it could be slightly. So, but again, he's kind of tolerating the guy, but he's a little bit. I don't trust you. What I wanted to point out just back here. See how he engages with him? So the horse engages with the guy. But even the action of his nose when he's engaging is a little bit like slightly pushing. It's obviously hard to see, but it seems to me that there's a little bit of tension in the way that he's engaging with the guy. See that little push there? It's sort of like, I'm not actually really comfortable with what's happening here, and there's a little bit of pushback, like, please give me some space. And then he disengages with him, or he disassociates from him quite clearly just here. The guy's still there, but he's like, I'm just gonna block you out or pretend you're not here. Now, I don't know, maybe something caught his attention there, but I think he's actually just kind of going, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm going to look over there and think about something else. And so, yeah, and he didn't re-engage with him, or he didn't pay him any attention again until the guy touched him. And the guy walks off, and then he thinks he's going to have some fun. Yeah. And that's that defensive mechanism coming out again. So I just want to rewind this one. So would you say that, I mean, at first glance and through the start of this video of this particular horse, he looks pretty well behaved. He looks pretty accepting of everything. And I think he is pretty accepting considering how the guy's behaving. But there's those little interactions that tell us the horse knows that the horse is in charge. The horse is not giving way to him. He's not giving way. The horse has already decided he's got the upper hand, and here he's like, no, you will leave me alone. Okay. So it's subtle, but it's there. This one, I didn't have a very good look online. I was hoping to find something on Liberty, people doing stuff at Liberty, because I think that's a real trouble area where people can get into a lot of trouble, and they can build in dominant behaviors into their horse without realizing it when they're trying to train something. But this next one, it's I don't know whether she's trying to do some kind of liberty or whether she's just playing with the horse. I think she may be playing, but I'll just play it through for you and you can have a look. Let me move this over here. So in that moment where he's like pinned his ears, he's spun around, we're already seeing there's like an element of challenge there towards the person. And the problem we have when people play with their horses in this way, again, I assume that's what she's doing. I don't know whether she's maybe trying to block him, but I think, like, just from what I can see with the lady's legs, it looks like she's maybe trying to like canter with him or match steps or something. But I don't ever recommend playing with horses in the way that horses play with each other.
Is it because he can see her as a predator? Like that's how a wolf would effectively try to circle a horse, and he's gotten defensive because she's acting as a predator even though she thinks she's playing with him?
I don't think No, I don't think he sees her as a predator. I think he sees her as like a challenge. So a wolf will come in more, yeah, you're right, they will circle. But when they come in, they're like straight line attack. But what I think she's mimicking is if you think of two stallions playing or two geldings playing together, and that kind of play where they run together and they nip or they try to get ahead of each other, or they kick out while they're running around together, is like a stallion based behavior based in horses, one horse dominating another to have the upper hand in the herd or to gain the herd. So, and some people think it's great fun to play like that with their geldings, especially because it looks fun and like, we're playing, yay, the horse thinks it's fun. But you're also mimicking this challenging stuff. You're mimicking let's fight. A little bit like teenage boys like play fighting or play wrestling. It only takes one hit that's a little bit too hard and now it's an actual fight. And someone's cranky and it's a real fight, someone's getting hurt. And when people play with their horses like this, it's all fun until it's not. It's all fun until the horse actually kicks out and you get struck. And if you're, so even the body language of her running along with the horse and challenging him side by side like that, like who's going to be in front, you're not giving them clear directions on the fact that you want to be considered the leader and decision maker. And if you're not the leader and decision maker, well, that's open for them to take that spot. And how do horses claim the upper hand when they really want to make it clear is they use their hooves or their teeth. They could do a lot of things subtly, but when push comes to shove, they're going to use their hooves or their teeth, and that's what's happening here. He's like, this is kind of annoying. Okay, you want to play? Well, boom. This is how we play. And that entire time as well, she's in the kicking zone. So she's made herself a prime target. Let me keep going here. Okay, this is an interesting one too. Any questions at the moment?
No, all makes sense.
Oh, good. I'm going to play like maybe the first 4 seconds of this video, and I want you to watch the horse and tell me if you notice anything or what signs you're noticing from the horse. Let's play it again.
The ears and the nostrils particularly, and the way he just shifts his head across, like his nostrils went really tense and really big, and the ears started to brace, but in a funny direction. He shifted his head around, even though he didn't
Definitely.
move his feet much, but he looks unbalanced on the back.
Yep. That's a big one too, JJ. Like his feet are spread apart at the back. He's bracing already. And he looks to me like he's holding his breath. And I'll play the whole thing through again in a minute and you'll be able to see it more clearly. But as the guy gets on and the horse shifts his weight, there's still just this like, it's not a natural kind of motion when somebody gets on the horse. And there's one more thing I wanted to point out too, is his expression or where his thoughts were in the beginning. The horse looked like he was doing that disassociation thing that we've seen with some of the other horses, where they're like, I'm not okay with what's happening right here. I'm not okay with what's happening to my body. So I'm going to disconnect and look at something else. And then when his mind is really forced to come back to his body, he's not coping. So I'll play the rest. Like, that's pretty extreme. But that's how much tension that horse was holding on to. In the lead up to that. And I'll just play the whole thing through again so that you get the full picture. And one more time, and I want you to really notice his like belly area and the way that he is bracing when he first starts to move. Like, he doesn't take a step, there's this real braced and a suck back. Before he goes over. Yeah. Not fun. Okay. And this is another rearing one. Little bit different circumstances. Just take a moment to notice how the horse is standing, or like what he's done after the rear. And based on what he's done after, do you think he's done this before? Yes or no? Like, do you think this is a learned thing? Do you think he was actually as panicked as the previous horse?
No, he seems pretty cool, calm and collected now.
Yeah. He's just standing there. It seems like he's like, I know the answer to this problem. I go over backwards and then we're good.
Interesting that he's got his tail held up though, like he's really on his hind end over his croup, and his tail, he looks really compacted and tight and up, as I don't know if he's bracing or if he's hurt his back.
Probably both, I would say. Probably both. But I just wanted to point out the difference. You know, same thing happened. They both went over backwards. But this horse, it looks like he's probably used to being pushed through things. He's giving a lot of signs. He's giving a lot of like indication that I might rear up. Whereas the previous horse was much more like subtle in that he was holding a lot of stuff in and then he just went boom. This horse is much more expressive about what he's going to do. Heads up. He's doing some like upward motions already. And then he does go over. But he doesn't run off. Like, it seems to me like I actually think he's done this several times before, and the guy just keeps riding him through it and keeps riding him through it. Or sometimes he comes off, but then he gets back on and it's like, haha, let's go again. Seems like that horse is like fairly, I don't want to say knows his job, but he's like, not like the previous horse where he ran off to go back to the herd or back to the other horses, I presume. And I'm not saying, I guess all I'm saying here is there's probably a difference in how the person has addressed things. And I think this horse, it's more of a learned behavior that he's learned to do when he's not, when he doesn't want to go forward, or there's something that he doesn't like, whereas the other horse, it seemed to be more of like a panic. Okay. Oh, okay. That was just stupid. Yeah, I mean, we all know that one was not a good idea. But in saying that, again, that horse probably has not been really taught to move off of people consistently. I'm pretty confident that you could walk up behind, not that I want anybody to, but you could walk up behind any one of my horses and do that, and they would probably scoot forward or be like, what do you want me to do? This is weird. What do you want me to do? It wouldn't just be like, boom, get out of my way. Okay. Oh, that's the end. All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Stop share. Okay. All right. Time's getting on, so I'll let you guys go soon. Any final thoughts or questions? Any like penny drop moments in watching those and picking them apart?
That was really good to watch and see and watch the replay in slow motion of a lot of those, because there's a lot of little subtle things, like everything happens so quickly in the blink of an eye, but to see some of the additional things frame by frame, that was awesome.
Good.
Well, not awesome, but awesome, if you know what I mean.
Awesome for learning.
Yeah, I am curious though, and thinking back to the horse that was at its end of the rope, and the vet was checking its front. If you've got a horse, and some horses are more protective of themselves when they're injured than others. If you've got a horse that has an injury, and obviously it depends what, how, and where, but if that injury needs to be treated, apart from putting a helmet on and watching for the signs that the horse is displaying, I'm trying to think what else you can do with that, because your vets come, and most of your vets, it's wham bam, thank you ma'am, I'm on time clock, time's ticking, we need to get this done now. They don't take the time just to let the horse settle and go at the horse's pace to do it. And I know the vets I use, my horses, they just do need a moment to just settle and say hello and go at an even pace. But is there something else that could be in that mix that you could do to assist with that?
That come back to just doing what Nicole's saying with the getting them used to moving off you or away from you each time, that it's almost ingrained in them to move away from people as opposed to being reactive. I don't know. Is that right, Nicole?
Yeah, sorry, my internet connection was a bit unstable there. Yeah, that's part of it. So having them, I would rather the vet have to follow them around for a while and then have to like create a little bit of trust with the horse than have the horse kick them. So that's a better problem to have if the horse is moving away than if the horse is striking them. But the other piece of it is building familiarity and building trust in that area being handled. So you can do a lot of that yourself. Now the horse might still be suspicious with a new person that comes, but if there's a familiar process, sometimes I'll even, like before I get colts gelded, for example, I'll get some gloves and I'll do the things that I think the vet might be going to do, which is checking the testicles and stuff. I want to mimic those actions. And before, let's say if they're going to do vaccinations or sedations or something, you can mimic using the gloves or having a dummy needle, stuff like that, so that it's a more familiar process for the horse, because all those little things reduce the amount of fear that they might experience. And I know, JJ, you've been really successful at doing that with the needling with your horse. So yeah, there's ways you can do that. And even like desensitizing with flipping ropes around, for example, the hind legs, things like that.
Yeah, I'm more thinking because, like, I did have issues where a vet had to come to my horse when he was very new in my care. We were still building that relationship, and he had some decent injuries that needing to be looked at. He had very little needling, and he was very protective of himself. So in the early stages, he needed medical treatment. It wasn't as if you could just say, oh, yeah, no worries, and whatever else. There was things there that he was doing that made it extremely difficult. So that's what I was sort of trying to think back, okay, what could I have done differently? And you do try and do everything you can to try and get them used to the medical and farrier and other handling things and processes you need to do as part of having your horse and your dental, like checking in their mouth and everything else. But when you've got a new horse or a horse that you don't know well, you don't have that relationship and trust to work with either, which makes
Yeah,
it harder.
definitely. And it does make it high risk, obviously. And I mean, there's cases, I'm sure, where the vet, where it's just they see that it's too dangerous for them and they'll just be like, I'm not going to do anything until I feel safe. But I think, thinking back to your scenario and what the best course of actions in those early days, for example, I would still say have him move off pressure, have him move away. It's going to take longer to get him standing still for the vet to do what they need to do. But it's far safer to sort of work through that and get to the point of, okay, now he's going to let us touch him rather than have him push back.
Well, he's got great hindquarter yields and he's had a lot of practice. So
He
that's
does.
why he's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, you've done well. But I think just as a blanket statement, I think that's the best, usually the best thing you can do to keep vets safe is to give horses the option to move away rather than stand still. And then, because there's a fine line between, okay, we don't want them to move, we do want them to stand for us to accept the needle or whatever it is. There's a fine window of time and stress for the horse where they'll accept that before they become overwhelmed, and then they'll fight in a different way. And that's usually when you get the jumping forward over people or striking out and doing those other dangerous things.
The escalation.
Pardon?
The escalation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 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 And when you take away the option for them to leave the source of the pain or the source of what's scaring them, they're going to go for another option if they don't trust what's happening.
Mm.
Yeah. All right. If there's no more questions, we'll wind it up. I just wanted to mention again the name of that Facebook group where I can give you support with the exercise that is in webinar number 2. The name of the Facebook group is called Unpredictable No More. I'll create that in the next 24 hours and you'll be able to request to come into that on Facebook. Also, that exercise is part of the Partnership Reboot program, and there's an online version of that coming next month. At the moment, I'm doing a pre-sale on that because so up until the end of this month and possibly a little bit into next month, but there's a pre-sale on that of $450 for 3 months access. And again, I'll be able to, so you'll have a whole heap of instructional videos to work through at home, but you can also get coaching and feedback from me online, so to make sure that you're getting all that stuff sorted and setting up a really good partnership with your horse. So 3 months is $450. If you want to stay in long term and really perfect what you're doing, and also maybe take other horses through it, other horses that you have, 6 months is $750. And then once the program goes live, that price will go up. Okay, so there's a pre-sale option there. If you're interested in that, just message me and we'll get you on board. If you come into the pre-sale as well, there's a bonus of a 30-minute Zoom coaching session with me. So that's you can get coaching with me obviously over Zoom, but it can be while you're doing things with your horse in the paddock, or it can be reviewing some video that you already have, but that's like a private one-on-one thing, 30 minutes with me to get you started before the online stuff comes on board. So that's what we have there. Thank you for being here. Thank you for interacting and stretching your brains and learning all this good stuff.
Thank you, Nicole. That was awesome.
So welcome. Right.
With your
Yes.
with like, I suppose the online versus you in person, obviously you're going to get a lot more value for money with you in person on the ground, correct? As opposed to watching some videos and just trying to mimic it. Is that
the thing I find with in person is that people, like, where people need that is when they feel like they don't have the confidence to do like to make it happen with their own horse. And so what I've done in the past is it's like, okay, I'll take over, I step in, I get your horse doing what they should be doing, and then you come in
so
once the horse has
sort
learned
of,
some skills. But what I'll be doing I've got really limited availability now for that in-person work, and that still is an option. So you can talk to me afterwards about that if you want.
Yeah.
But what I'll be doing with the online program is I want to teach it in a way broken down into the steps that you can apply it and build that confidence and actually make it happen for yourself without somebody being there. So, for
Yeah.
example, that very first step that we did that's in webinar number 2 is we're creating space across a fence.
Yeah.
Because that gives you protection and you can build the skill into the horse while you're protected. And then once they have that skill, you don't need the protection and you don't need me there.
Yeah.
So that's just one part of it, but definitely.
So I guess with those, because that I did watch that webinar too, and I found it really good because you did break it down, and yeah, it's sort of given me an idea of, okay, this is what I need to be doing with the flag. So I suppose more of the webinars that you've got online, are they sort of more like those, just sort of advancing each step and sort of explaining the way through doing it that way, so you sort of know what to look for and what ideally what you should be getting?
Yeah, so there'll be like six or probably actually a few more modules, and they're going to be so I will be demonstrating it step by step with one of my horses, so you get to see, okay, this is what it should look like. And then on top of that, I'll be videoing, so with some people that I'm working with in person, I'm going to be videoing them doing the same exercises. So you also get to see, okay, this is what it looks like for somebody who hasn't done it before, and these are the kind of mistakes that I might make and the things to look out for and the fix-ups.
Yep.
Yep. And then there will also be modules around like your flag technique and timing and also expression, like looking out for the horse's expression and things like that. So my aim is to give you everything that you need to confidently do it yourself without having somebody else there. If you're local, we can add on some private, like if you're struggling with the online stuff and you're local, we can add on some private lessons separately.
Yeah.
Have I answered your question?
Yes, no, you have.
I'm like, what was the question?
Thank you. No, that's great. No, it's amazing. So I'm really liking it, and it's a good, really taster, I guess, of seeing what you can do, and it makes a lot of sense. So I'm looking forward to trying that webinar too with my horses when I finally get some free time, and just sending them away from the fence and seeing what happens and seeing how quickly I can do it or not do it. So
yeah, and your horses are going to be different than the ones on the videos too.
yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's funny. My nice one, I reckon, is the more pushier one, but I think he's pushy because he's so nice, and I let him be nice, because he's so lovely. But I think he's probably the more bargier one out of the two. So it's funny when you start noticing things after watching your stuff.
Yeah, it'll be interesting when you start to work through it and things start to change.
Yeah. No,
I did
amazing.
just want.
Thank you. Yep.
Oh, you're welcome. I did just want to mention too that with that Partnership Reboot online program, there'll be weekly Zoom calls, group Zoom calls that you can jump on and check in. So it's not like you get the videos and then you're just left to yourself. There's like really regular check-ins to make sure that you're on track and you like you do it at your own pace, but just to make sure that you are confident with.
Yeah, so if you've got questions or if you're stumped with something, then at least you can say, hey, what am I doing wrong here? Yep.
Yeah, and you can take your own video and send it to me and I can give you feedback on that too.
Amazing.
So there's lots of support.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're so welcome, and thank you both for being here. And I shall see you around the ridges.
You will. Thank you.
Good
Thanks,
night.
Nicole. See ya.
See ya.